Rick Ross spent nearly 20 years convincing the world he was untouchably rich. Private jets, luxury cars, million-dollar mansions. But when photos surfaced of him sitting in economy class and his concert tickets couldn't sell even with a buy one, get one free deal, people started asking one question. Did the biggest boss lose everything? The truth behind Rick Ross's financial downfall is far crazier than anyone expected. For nearly 2 decades, Rick Ross built one of the most recognizable brands in hip-hop. To millions of fans around the world, he wasn't just a rapper, he was the living definition of success, luxury, and financial power. Every song painted the same picture: private jets, exotic cars, massive mansions, endless wealth. The image was so consistent that many people genuinely believed Rick Ross had figured out a formula for unlimited success. But before we can understand why people are questioning his financial situation today, we first need to understand how high he actually climbed. Between 2012 and 2016, Rick Ross was operating at the absolute peak of his career. Multiple financial outlets estimated his net worth somewhere between $75 and $100 million. That wasn't simply music money. It came from multiple income streams working together at the same time. His music career was thriving. Albums were selling, streaming numbers were strong, touring revenue was pouring in. Fans packed venues across the country just to see him perform. But music was only part of the equation. His Maybach Music Group label had become one of the most respected brands in hip-hop. Artists like Meek Mill and Whale helped generate both cultural influence and serious business revenue. Then came his investments. One of the smartest moves Ross ever made was investing heavily in Wingstop franchises. While many rappers spent money on luxury items, Ross positioned himself as a businessman. Reports suggested he owned more than 24 Wingstop locations during the company's rapid expansion phase. As Wingstop grew, those restaurants generated significant revenue. At the same time, Ross secured endorsement partnerships and business ventures that further increased his wealth. But nothing represented his success more than his legendary Georgia estate known as the Promised Land. This wasn't simply a mansion, it was a symbol. The property featured 109 rooms, massive acreage, and one of the largest private swimming pools in the entire state. The estate became part of the Rick Ross brand itself. Whenever people thought about Ross, they thought about luxury on a scale few artists could match. On the surface, everything appeared perfect. Successful music career, profitable businesses, major real estate holdings, national recognition, massive fan support. The biggest boss seemed unstoppable. And that's exactly what made his story so powerful. He wasn't just selling music, he was selling a lifestyle, a fantasy, a belief that anyone watching could achieve unlimited wealth if they followed the right path. For years, people bought into that vision. But hidden behind the luxury cars, private jets, expensive jewelry, and social media flexing was a dangerous reality. The bigger the image became, the more expensive it became to maintain, and eventually, maintaining the image would become more important than protecting the money itself. That decision would change everything. Because while the public saw a man getting richer every year, another story was quietly unfolding behind the scenes. A story about spending, a story about appearances, and a story that would eventually lead to one of the most embarrassing moments of Rick Ross's entire career. As Rick Ross became wealthier, something else happened. The luxury lifestyle that once symbolized success slowly became the center of his entire identity. Instead of simply being rich, Ross needed everyone to know he was rich. Everywhere people looked, there were reminders: luxury vehicles, diamond chains, designer clothing, private jets, massive estates, expensive watches. The message was always the same: I have more than you. Over time, the image became inseparable from the man. But here's the problem. There is a major difference between building wealth and displaying wealth. Building wealth creates future income. Displaying wealth consumes it. And according to critics, Rick Ross spent years choosing display over sustainability. His vehicle collection alone included multiple Rolls-Royces, Bentleys, Lamborghinis, and other luxury automobiles worth millions of dollars. Then there was the jewelry, custom chains, diamond-encrusted pendants, luxury watches. Each purchase reinforced the image of unlimited wealth. But luxury purchases don't generate revenue, they generate attention. Meanwhile, maintaining the Promised Land came with enormous costs. A 109-room estate doesn't operate itself. Security, maintenance, utilities, property upkeep, staff salaries, every month required significant spending before a single dollar of profit could be generated. The larger the image became, the larger the expenses became. And that wasn't all. There were travel costs, business costs, recording expenses, entourage expenses, lifestyle expenses, all of them demanding constant cash flow. For years, the machine kept running because Ross was generating enough income to support it. But eventually, something changed. The music industry changed. Streaming replaced album sales. Audience interest shifted. New artists entered the spotlight. And maintaining relevance became harder than ever. Suddenly, the financial equation looked different. Income growth slowed, expenses remained enormous, and then came the moment that shocked the internet. Photos surfaced showing Rick Ross flying economy class. For most people, flying economy isn't a big deal. Millions of people do it every day. But Rick Ross wasn't most people. This was the same man who spent years presenting private jets and luxury travel as part of his identity. The photos immediately went viral. Social media exploded. Memes spread everywhere. People weren't laughing because he was flying economy. They were laughing because it directly contradicted the image he had spent decades creating. Then Ross responded. According to him, his private jet was being upgraded with Starlink internet services, forcing him to take a commercial flight temporarily. But many fans weren't convinced. Critics argued that someone operating at the financial level Ross claimed could simply charter another private aircraft. Instead of ending the controversy, the explanation created even more questions. And those questions quickly expanded beyond a single flight. People started examining everything: his businesses, his spending, his public image, his financial situation. Suddenly, the economy class photo wasn't just a photo anymore. It became a symbol that the image might no longer match reality. And unfortunately for Ross, another major problem was already developing at the same time: his concert ticket sales. If the economy class controversy damaged Rick Ross's image, his concert ticket situation intensified the conversation. Reports began circulating that ticket sales for certain performances were struggling. Some promotions even offered buy one, get one free deals in an attempt to increase attendance. For many artists, discounts aren't unusual. But for Rick Ross, they created a perception problem. His entire brand had always been built around exclusivity and premium status. Discounts felt completely opposite to everything he represented, and fans noticed. The criticism wasn't really about ticket prices. It was about what the discounts seemed to reveal. People began asking whether demand for Rick Ross had declined significantly. The answer is complicated. Part of the issue involves cultural relevance. The hip-hop landscape has changed dramatically since Ross dominated headlines. A new generation of artists now controls much of the attention. Younger audiences have different favorites. Music trends continue evolving. What worked in 2012 doesn't necessarily work today. Another challenge involves the nature of Ross's relationship with his audience. Many artists build fan loyalty through personal stories, emotional connections, and vulnerability. Ross built much of his brand around aspiration, luxury, power, success, spectacle. And spectacle is powerful when it's working, but it's fragile when cracks begin to appear. Once people stop believing the image, maintaining that image becomes increasingly difficult. Meanwhile, questions also emerged about some of his business ventures. Wingstop remained one of his most recognized investments, but operating franchise businesses at scale requires constant management and attention. Like any business, challenges can arise from changing economic conditions, management issues, and market performance. As multiple revenue streams face pressure simultaneously, maintaining an expensive lifestyle becomes much harder. And that's what makes the Rick Ross story so fascinating. At its core, this isn't really about economy class seats. It's about perception. It's about the difference between looking wealthy and creating sustainable wealth. Real wealth doesn't always need attention. Real wealth continues generating value even when nobody is watching. But performing wealth requires constant maintenance, constant spending, constant validation, constant proof. For years, Rick Ross mastered that performance better than almost anyone in hip-hop. The cars, the mansions, the jewelry, the private jets, the luxury lifestyle, it all helped create one of the most successful images in modern rap history. But eventually, reality catches up with every image. And when the economy class photos surfaced, many people felt like they were witnessing the moment the curtain finally moved aside. Whether Rick Ross is truly struggling financially remains a matter of public debate. What isn't debatable is the damage done to his credibility, because money can be earned again, businesses can recover, careers can rebound, but credibility is much harder to rebuild once people stop believing the story. And that's why the internet reacted so strongly. They weren't just laughing at a flight, they were reacting to what that flight represented. The possible collapse of a character that had been carefully constructed for nearly 20 years. The biggest boss built an empire selling a dream. Now the world is watching to see whether that dream can survive reality.